This next-gen demo is presented by State Farm. All right, we are talking about next-gen here with Rev3 at E3 at the Vivid Touch booth, but we're about to have one of the oldest gaming franchises that has now been catapulted into the future. I am happy to be joined by Andreas.
Oh, you're for us.
Of course it is. You're at Machinegames working on the new Wolfenstein. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for letting me be here.
So yeah, Wolfenstein, it helped usher in the entire first-person shooter genre, but you know, even as the legacy extends all the way back to the Apple II,
yeah.
It sort of pops up intermittently. If you don't mind my asking, what made the time feel right to return to this franchise? And is it something that you think still has currency with a lot of gamers out there?
I absolutely think so. For us, it was pretty simple. So we partnered up with Bethesda and id Studio around 2010. And we realized that no one was doing anything with Wolfenstein. So we're all huge fans of Wolfenstein 3D. And, we all grew up with that, and it really affected us deeply as both gamers and game developers, I think. So when we had a chance to pitch something for that, we did that. So we made a pitch, and they loved it. So that's the game we're doing.
All right, well, let's take a look at this game. If you don't mind sort of giving us a little bit of setting about where we are in
Right,
Wolfenstein.
So this is during the 1960s, and this is an alternate history setting where the Nazis won World War II. So they're now taking over the entire world and created this global Nazi empire. So what we see here is BJ Blaskowicz being back in London. So you see a part of London here has been transformed into a slum. And over here you see a lot of downtown London has been completely leveled and replaced with this monstrous Nazi architecture.
And also I was noting, there's also should be monstrous robots. I mean, yes, it's an alternate future, but I mean, is the winning of the war have something to do with a level of technology that shouldn't be existing?
That's very much like one of the mysteries of the story that you need to find out by playing the game. But yeah, we have the robots, we have the towering Nazi robots. We play a lot with the retro sci-fi themes that we can have in the 1960s. So we do that with both enemies and setting and weapons.
So if you go back and you play Wolfenstein 3D, one cannot call that one of the deepest games. It was a technological marvel for its time, but obviously there's the character of Blaskowicz. Storytelling in games has changed so much. So what do you hold on to, and what do you have to start to invent for yourself within the world of Wolfenstein?
Yeah, that's how we started out on this project, by going back and looking at what is a Wolfenstein game. And for us, it is the intense, immersive action. You have the David versus Goliath theme, like BJ against our Nazi army, and now it's BJ against the global Nazi empire. And you also have the general sense of weirdness you get from exaggerating the most bizarre elements of the Nazi party, like the larger-than-life leaders, the strange technology, and all the weird experiments and things like that.
I think I just have to ask you now, like, what is sort of like your sensitivities? Obviously, the actual Nazis did terrible, horrible things.
Yeah.
Genocide in Europe. That where you make it too much of a cartoon, you are disrespecting the events of history.
Yeah. So there's a lot of humor in the game, but we take our themes very seriously as well. We think it would be irresponsible not to actually portray some of the things that the Nazis would do if they would have won the war, and what they did during the war as well. So we take that very seriously, and we allow the player to explore that setting. What would it mean if they had won the war? What kind of world would we be left with? So that's really important to us.
Now, this device right here, which I've gathered is somewhat central to the game. I mean, how it cuts through things, and obviously it makes robot dogs have problems. But does that allow for sort of an expansion of how you can move through the environment?
Absolutely. So it starts out pretty simple with this kind of laser pistol that you get. You can shoot people with it, but you can also cut through simple surfaces like the fence you just saw there. And later in the game, you'll find a much more powerful weapon called a laser strike, which is more like a laser rifle. And with that, you can cut through more metal surfaces like aluminum. So yeah, you can use that to progress through a level or to find alternate routes through a level, but you can also use it in combat. For example, if you stealth through a little bit of the game or a section and you're hiding behind a cover, you can take that weapon and actually cut a hole through your cover and sneak through and just use it as a sniper rifle to take out people. And you can also use it on the other way. If an enemy runs and takes cover behind some kind of aluminum cover, you can actually take out his cover and leave him exposed and headshot him. So that's like adds a tactical option for you. You can still rush him with guns blazing, or you can flank him, but you can also just take his cover away.
So, I mean, are you trying to give the player sort of a diverse tool set in order to deal with the combat situations? I think when you think of Wolfenstein, you think of a fairly fundamental, rudimentary shooter, but it sounds like you're trying to do more with that.
Well, yeah, that's exactly our approach to our combat scenarios. You know, give the player a bunch of different options on how to solve it. And in this demo later on, you'll see that in these larger, expansive areas where there's a big combat encounters, and you have multiple ways to kind of deal with the situation. You can stealth a bit, you can just go around with guns blazing, you can use different rooms, you can use turret weapons, and all kinds of ways to solve these encounters.
Okay, we have a big robot here.
Yeah.
So I'm also trying to get a sense of sort of, I'm expecting Nazi enemies, but it looks like that there's a large sci-fi set of enemies here.
Retro sci-fi.
Retro sci-fi,
yeah.
well put. I'm trying to get a sense of, like, are we dealing with sort of massive, very powerful enemy encounters, or are we dealing with sort of like a lot of human enemies? Like, I'm getting a sense of what the challenge is that the player's going to face.
So that's up to the pacing of the game. So we try to switch it up. So for example, here you fight a lone towering Nazi robot. Right after this room, you'll fight a lot of soldiers who will come and attack you. So the challenge differs very much. It's like a pacing thing. It's going back and forth.
And it seems like also your weapon set benefits from the technological advances of the time in the game.
You steal the Nazis' weapons, basically.
Yeah.
So that's part of the story, understanding where does this technology come from? Why did the Nazis won the war? So that's the mystery of the game in a way.
So this is in Tech 5 that you're using, am I correct?
Absolutely.
What is that sort of allowing you guys as developers to play with that, say in Tech 4 would not allow you guys to
so
have?
we can make incredibly detailed environments. We can make each pixel of the game unique. So that's really cool for us as we're a very visual studio as well. So that's really fun for us to create these new, diverse environments.
Also, what is the transition? I mean, I'm assuming what we're looking at is either a very good PC version or an next-gen system. What is the difference going to be like from what you can play on the 360 and PS3 to what we'll be getting with the PS4 and the Xbox One?
Yeah, it's going to be. It's going to look much better, I guess, on next-gen consoles. But I think this is not that far away from the current-gen consoles.
Okay.
So, but this is on our way development process towards next-gen. Yeah. So we try to keep the same gameplay between the different versions. But of course, you're going to be able to do higher texture resources and more effects and stuff like that on consoles of the next generation.
Now, it's funny, when we were seeing all these press conferences on the Monday of this week, we only saw a handful of games that actually were shooters. And there seems to be a lot of tension about whether or not we want to see a lot of shooters in the future and where can we take it. Yeah. I mean, this is obviously something that you guys might be very sensitive to. I mean, if you were to take kind of a global view of where you, maybe with your team, are evolving the first-person shooter franchise, I'm curious to get your thoughts on that.
So we try to combine the best of old school shooter design with the modern day school of design. We think there are certain things that were kind of left behind when it comes to design principles that we think that maybe they shouldn't have been left behind. So we bring them back and we marry them to like the modern school design, and we try to create.
What are those old concepts that you think we've abandoned unfairly?
Okay, so a good example is our health and armor system. So we bring back the 100 health and 100 armor, and because that creates combat scenarios where you need to be more careful, and every combat scenario, even if it's big or small, matters, because health is a resource that you need to take care of. And it's also something that we use to have the player move and be very active in the combat scenarios, because you're going to take damage and you're going to have to find health during a battle even. So the way we do that in a modern way is that we have a little bit of health regen. So, for example, if you end up with 5% health after a combat encounter, it's going to go up a little bit, but it only goes up to the next 20. So if you end up with 5 health points, it's going to go up to 20, but no further. That means that you'll never be truly screwed up. You always have a fighting chance to continue the game.
But yeah, you're definitely creating a challenge that isn't very common for a lot of shooters on the player. How do you find a way to sort of retrain the player to unthink the way that most people play shooters these days?
Wow. Well, just through the pacing of the difficulty curve, I guess, of the game. But
I guess if you die enough, you'll realize I must be doing something wrong here.
It's a challenging game, and we want it to be a challenging game. So, but you're going to have the 5 classic difficulty levels of Wolfenstein 3D. Everything from Daddy Can I Play to I Am Death Incarnate. So you're gonna be able to tweak the difficulty level exactly to something that fits you, but we want it to be a challenging game for the people who likes that experience, and we like that experience.
And I think in doing so, you are honoring, I think, the legacy of the Wolfenstein franchise, and yes, what that old classic game was all about.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, I'm excited to play it. When is the game being made available?
Holidays.
Holidays? Well, I look forward to playing that. I know, as we said, PC, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox 360, and PS3.
That's true, yeah.
All right,
That's
well, great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, thank you.